Good afternoon, everyone. Warm greetings to all our viewers. I am architect Apurva Bose-Datta, and on behalf of COA Social and the Council of Architecture, I extend a warm welcome to all of you to today's session on creating a level playing field in architecture. I'm delighted to welcome our COA President, Architect Habib Khan, Vice President, Architect Sapna, and our esteemed guests for this discussion. The terminologies of equity, equality, inclusivity, and a level playing field in architecture can be discussed and debated at many levels. One of the most significant global discussions of late has been on gender parity and inclusivity. Working diligently towards the same has been the Council of Architecture Committee for Women Architects issue. Today's session will include a presentation on their initiatives and interaction on gender parity and the way forward. We are delighted to have the COA Committee for Women Architects join us for today's session. The committee is led by Architect Sapna, COA Vice President and Chief Architect, Department of Architecture for Punjab. The committee members include Geeta Balakrishnan from Kolkata, an architect, educator, and founder of Ethos, an organization that works towards spreading awareness on architecture. Smita Khan from Nagpur, an architect, academician, and co-founder of Smita and Habib Khan Architects. Madhvi Desai from Ahmedabad, an architect, teacher, and author who has worked in the realm of gender and built environment in India over the past 3 decades. Bapilu Chai, Member Council of Architecture and Senior Architect, PWD, Arunachal Pradesh. Vidya Singh from Nagpur, an academician and chief architect and co-founder of Vidya Singh and Associates, and B. Venkat Satish from Bangalore, founder and principal architect at Atlantis Architects and Interiors, and former member, Council of Architecture. I also welcome our guests for today's discussion. We have Savneet Kaur from Haryana, Chief Architect at Imarat Architects and Director at Imarat Center for Earth Architecture. R.V. Thiruvengadam, an architect, urban designer, lighting designer from Delhi, and the founder of Uri Design Studio. And Shruti Mrinalini, a young architect from Bengaluru who graduated from the BMS School of Architecture in 2018 and currently works with Ethos. Last but not the least, I welcome Sri Deepak Kumar, Administrative Officer, Council of Architecture. Please excuse me for the considerably short bios, but we hope to elaborate on them during the panel discussion. We are indeed honored to have all of you with us here today. Moving on, I will now call upon Architect Sapna to share a few words with us on the Women's Committee and its initiatives. Sapna ma'am, please take this ahead.
Thank you so much, Apurva, for this warm introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Very warm greetings from Council of Architecture. I welcome all the viewers, participants, my panelists, students to COA Social event, creating a level playing field. We'll give little background of Council. Council of Architecture is a statutory body constituted by the Government of India under the provisions of Architects Act 1972, enacted by the Parliament of India. The Council of Architecture is charged with the responsibility to regulate the education and practice of profession throughout India, besides maintaining the register of architects. We as a team with our leader, President Architect Habib Khan, and we as Vice President and our executive members took over the responsibility in the end of the year 2019, with the goal to have a total transparency in our working in Council and to establish a relation and connect with our institutions and fraternity. For this, we started with outreach programs. We had these programs in Chandigarh, Chennai, and Bangalore, and then COVID happened. During COVID, we shifted to online mode and we introduced COA Social platform to hold hands, reach out to our fraternity and our society to interact and understand the different aspects of architecture and practice. COA Social has 4 verticals: COA Social Dialogue, COA Social Reads, COA Social People, and COA Social via Women in Architecture. This vertical, COA Social via, has been conceived as a space to appreciate and recognize the vital role of women in architecture to have a stronger mentorship and to engage and to collaborate on opportunities. It was during one of our outreach programs that the issues regarding the challenges being faced by women in architecture were discussed. Various challenges like the gap between the number of fresh graduate women and women pursuing architecture, especially in practice, gender parity, sexual harassment were discussed. To address these issues and to reach out to girl students and young women in profession, we in Council have formulated a committee with the aim to provide the support system, a helping hand, and an assurance. Then we at the Council are behind them and for them. And in this, we have this committee, Apurva has already introduced, but really would like to take names again: Architect Bapi Lochai, Architect Madhvi Desai, Architect Vidya Singh, Architect Geeta Balakrishnan, Architect Smita Khan, and Architect B.V. Satish. So further, I would request our President, Architect Habib Khan, to share his views on this. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Namaskar, all of you. It's always a pleasure to be amongst all of you in my fraternity, and especially in this forum where we're discussing very, very vitally important issues concerning women and women architects. As Sapna has already briefed, COA Social was an initiative which we took during the lockdown and the pandemic times, wherein we wanted to convert the bane into a boon, and we wanted to reach out to our fraternity and hold hands and provide an anchor when we were all disturbed emotionally and upset physically as well. And I'm very happy to say that COA Social did that purpose very effectively and very prominently, because we had such a phenomenal response to the COA Social initiative that we had in the dialogues and the book reads initially, and then we started the WIA, Women in Architecture, and the people vertical, where we tried to reach out to people at large, common citizens, non-architects. And the issues concerning, we were disturbed when we were having these outreach initiatives, and the communications that I got through mails and social media platforms and personal WhatsApp messages, that the kind of harassment that young women architects are facing in our professional offices during their training periods and as students by the faculty. And it was very disturbing to see and note that these young would-be architects and architects were unable to reach out to probably their parents sometimes, or their friends, or to reach out to people to confide into. And they were at a loss to understand what is to be done, and what is the next course of action, and what should be the course of, police complaint or harassment or complaint against professional misconduct and XYZ. They were at bay to understand what is to be done about such an issue, apart from emotional trauma that one goes through in such cases. So we at the council thought about it quite a lot in depth, and we came out with a solution that we should have a committee which will exclusively look into the issues being faced by women as professionals, women as co-professionals, women at workplace, and women facing such kind of harassment, sexual, emotional, mental harassment. So we started this committee, and I am sure you have worked a lot and quite effectively that too. We've issued advisories to architects, we've issued advisories to all institutions, and advisory acts as a warning, if you can understand, from a regulatory authority until it becomes a regulation or a rule or a law. So I hope that with the initiative of the Women's Committee, we will be able to initiate and actively pursue the women cell, which is also a mandatory requirement of the law of the land. In our institutions, the women's cell basically functions as a lip service during the council inspections or other inspections that happen. But we want that these cells and these committees in each institution become active and extend a helping hand and provides the much needed counseling centers to the affected girl students as well as young architects. The issue that we are still facing at the moment is that we will be able to probably activate and effectively make the committees work in institutions, because we have a direct control over the institutions. But the problem is where in offices, in professional offices, in private offices, not the government offices of the corporate sector, but private offices of architects and allied consultants, wherein a large number of our women are employed. How that is to be roped in, reined in, is a point which we're still looking at, how it can be done legally, how it can be done professionally, how it can be done and by any other regulation or law. So that we are working on, and I'm sure we'll be able to sort that out very soon. We have already tried to link that to professional misconduct rules and regulations of 1989. So let us see if we're able to implement that in a more effective manner. So these are certain issues which we find that needs to be addressed by the committee and addressed by the COA as well, because a large component of our members are women. At the moment, if I'm not wrong, less than 50%, but in the coming 5 years, they're going to be 65%, which is a major component which they're going to overtake men. And the other issues, which are professional issues, and which are how many women are in practice, how many women actually do not do anything, how many are employed, how many, all these are statistics and percentages, but they need to be looked into holistically in a perspective which is having a strong futuristic vision, wherein we will be able to address the issues concerning women in profession as well, women in employment as well, and women in educational institutions as well. And these three verticals that we need to address in the future, because if more than 65% of our members, registered architects, are going to be women, then it's a matter of concern if they are not being addressed properly, if the issues are not being tackled properly. So these things are to be looked into by the committee and by the council in the coming years as well. Our term will be ending very soon, but I'm sure the continuity of thought process will be there. And these issues need to be perpetually and constantly addressed in institutions and architectural offices. And I'm sure it will be done. The other point, which is very important and which is very necessary to do, is to provide a helping hand in confidence to all these women who are in distress, especially at workplaces and institutions. And I would implore the committee to look into this aspect as well, where we are able to create a platform, an environment in which any lady, senior, young student is able to confide in this committee, and the committee can address the issues, can hold hands, provide an emotional support, an emotional background, and do the necessary work, which may be a little outside the mandate and outside the or the rules, regulations of the council. But as a human being, as co-professionals, we should extend a helping hand, because there's a definite lack of psychological counseling. There's a lack of a kind of a motherly or a fatherly figure present there, in which someone can confide in confidence, and we should be able to provide some kind of a solace, some kind of a companionship, some kind of a emotional support system to these affected women and girls. So this needs to be addressed. This needs to be looked into by the committee. And let us see how we can do that. It can be done holistically. It can be done decentralized way. It could be done through the institutions. In my own institution, if you will be surprised that we get about 60 odd complaints every month where they need psychological counseling of various kinds, not necessarily harassment, but of various kinds and issues which the girl students are facing after they join architecture, coming from a different system, different background, different academic routines. There are a lot of issues, and I'm only talking about 60 odd complaints every month, which is only from girl students. I'm not talking about boy students. The equal number of students who need counseling. So this is something that we need to look at the institutional level, at the council level, and I'm sure the committee will look into it and come out with effective solutions and a framework in which we'll be able to work to provide a holistic solution to the issues being faced by women in particular. Thank you so much for inviting me and It's always, like I tell you, always a pleasure to be amongst all of you. And I'm also happy to tell you that I have received since morning. Today was a reminder circulation on the social media, and there are about 9 women architects who have expressed their desire to be on this platform and discuss the issues threadbare openly with all of you. And I'm sure we'll give them a chance and a platform to do that. And let us hear them, what they want to say. We are here to hear everyone and be with them and provide a platform for interaction and exchange of thoughts and ideas so that something better comes out for the future of our country. And so I request the women committee to kindly get in touch with me, and then we will discuss the outline and the network of the next program. Let this not be the last COA social interaction on these issues, and let us hear those odd 8 or 10 odd women who have approached us to hear their issues out and take their contribution. So thank you so much, and I wish meaningful deliberations that happen today. And once again, all the best and greetings from the Council of Architecture. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Architect Habib Khan, for your views. And definitely we'll have another, CA social, event, and where we would invite our dear women architects to share their views. And definitely, thank you so much. To take it further, would want to share that we as committee, we met online and we discussed, we deliberated on all these issues of gender parity, of sexual harassment, about this ratio of, women, girl student versus women architects who are actually practicing in the field. And we have, prepared a small report, a small presentation, and I would now invite Architect Geeta Balakrishnan to, share that report and let us go, further. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'd like to begin by thanking Habibji and Sapnaji for having me as part of this committee. The last few months have been, last couple of years have been very interesting because, we've been trying to understand the space, working with all of you, and also kind of seeing different points of view has been quite a eye-opener for me. And thank everybody in the committee for that. I'll just have to start share again. Give me a minute. Yeah, I hope everybody can see my screen. So yes, like both the president and vice president were just talking about how this committee needs to be a buddy, needs to be someone that a group of people who are approachable, who can fill in the confidence that is required from young and old students and professionals, largely speaking the women architects from this sector. Like Sapnaji already mentioned, COA was formed in 1972 by the Architects Act, and the objective was, as mentioned here, to maintain a register, prescribe minimum standards for architectural qualifications by institutions, recommend recognition and de-recognition of architectural qualifications in central government, prescribe code of conduct and ethics for architects, and take action against erring architects. And this is something where probably eventually the focus of this committee could fit into, and enter into reciprocal arrangements for recognition of foreign qualifications. So it was in 2000, I think, when architect Brinda Somaya, who actually introduced me to the first woman architect of our country, Perrin Mistry. Recently, I just put out of curiosity, I put out a little story on Insta asking anybody who saw it to name 5 architects. And I did not say 5 well-known architects, 5 men, women. I just said name any 5 architects. And I asked them to message it to me. And while many of the messages were still talking about the 5 names that we probably studied in college or we heard of in our times in college, there are a few young ones also who got recognized. But I would say that maybe 50, 60, 70% of the names were, maybe 80% of the names were largely male, and very few females found their place. But I'm glad that there were some who had maybe 80% women in their list. So Perrin Mistry, as I was mentioning, being the first woman architect of India, continued to practice for almost half a century. She started her practice or graduated in 36 and continued to practice until 1989, which was around the time I was finishing my architecture from School of Planning and Architecture, Delhi. And I was one of the 8 girls in a class of 40. So from a strength of about 20% at that time, we've made strides, and we are now at almost 50% of women architects in a class or female architects in a class. And as Habibji just mentioned, we are likely to, in the next few years, move up to 65%. But the number, when you look at practicing independently, that percentage is not a very happy percentage. We're talking about 17%. And here I'd like to also point out, you just heard Apurva introducing all of us and introducing this topic. She runs for me a practice of, in her space, just like I do. And I hope, the 17% accounts for people like us and architects like us as well. Yes, this is the subcommittee on issues of women architects. We had Architect Sapna as the current convener. And, the 6 of us have been sitting and deliberating online largely over the last couple of years, trying to see what directions we should take. And we arrived at a mission statement, which is to establish a framework to facilitate the empowerment of women architects, those in academics, in professional practice, and in alternate streams. This would be achieved through awareness, parity in gender, and support for redressal in the case of infringement of their rights. As far as awareness goes, we heard COA Social being mentioned. We are on COA Social now. There have been quite a few sessions that we've held with well-known architects, young women architects, and male architects as well, to understand the space better, but also to celebrate some of the women achievers. And recently, we also sent out a survey form to academic institutions to understand, to gather information on status of women faculty, students, and alumni, problems faced by them, opportunities available to them, and support provided to them by their colleges. And we have received a bunch of responses. It's time for us to sit and make sense of that and see what we could do with that information for the future course of action. Like it was just mentioned, an advisory was sent to colleges and firms with the intent to reinforce the need for gender parity, having social security measures, and ensuring a safe work environment, which is essential. If we want women to be able to have equal opportunities in a workspace, we need to be able to make the workspace a safe, which includes sites, a safe and secure working environment. And we also need to look at how they can be paid on par, and firms need to know about what the guidelines as far as the Government of India are concerned on dealing with issues of women in a workplace. This was a very interesting recent piece of information that we stumbled on. Hannah Rosenberg is a recent graduate from the Royal College of Art. And, we often have, we believe that human beings have inherent biases, which kind of dictate how they act or how the decisions they make. So her project was on building without bias, and she was looking at whether a building is biased or not. And she was looking at writing maybe a code or looking at an algorithm that will arrive at this. And she stumbled upon the fact that human beings write out many of these algorithms and programs as well, right? So if she was to use some of that, then she stumbled upon an understanding the basic bias that was fed into the machine as well, which likened a man to a computer programmer and a woman to a homemaker. So we think that it's a very mechanical way of, if a machine is analyzing things, but who feeds in that content is also essential. And yes, this was quite stunning. And that brings us to, how important gender inclusive design is. And I think it also works both ways. If you have a proper attitude towards gender, your attitude towards gender inclusive design also kind of gets dictated by that. You look at public spaces. I mean, if we are sensitive and we understand that every space needs to be making sure that it addresses the needs of all, we will be looking at, and we come across so much of this every day. So if you were to look at a scenario, say in a metro through the lens of design, and we are traveling in a metro which is full and people are standing in the alleys and so on, what would you do as a designer? You would probably add more benches, add stirrups so that people could be comfortable and safe. Then if you realize that some of them are going to be women, then you would adjust hopefully the height of those stirrups so it becomes more convenient for the women to hold. What if some of them are elderly? You would add handrails. What if a woman is, if there are pregnant women or young mothers who need to feed their children, you would probably add a nursing station. So these are sensitivities that probably come when you have a balanced environment at work as well. And these are some examples of how architects and designers have incorporated or looked at including gender sensitive design in their practices, and how when you design sensitively, you are not only impacting those that are using that environment, but also those that are interacting with that environment. And this research reminded me of my walk, where I found exactly these areas, like the areas that this GIC research came up with, talking about the need for interventions in the space of urban planning, design of public spaces, provision and maintenance of public infrastructure and services, public transport, policing, legislation, justice and support to victims, education and civic awareness and participation. And I think while we might think this is not really our domain here, again, going back to how gender mainstreaming is essential, both from the perspective of designing for gender mainstreaming as well as policy for gender mainstreaming, where we are talking about pay parity and things like that within the organizations. And if you look at this slide, it's by this talks on Eyes on the Street, and it again is a simple way of keeping our streets safe, because there is visibility. And if you also looked at very compartmentalized zoning, you would find that those maybe if it's a purely industrial area and there is no residential quarters in that area, you're going to find difficulty or issues of safety. And hence, it's important to look at ways of designing to deal with some of these things. I'd like to just play this video before I go on.
Profession, of course, there are challenges as well. The reality is, I think, unfortunately, because the industry has to uplift itself, I think there's a certain level of upliftment that has to happen so that we are respected as a profession more. I think it is improving, but unfortunately, because of the value of our services are often so devalued, so often is the payment scale. And I think, the president talked about this, how there is this need as a community to uplift each other. And this is talking about ethics, integrity, all the things that are down in the COA that need to be followed as a community. And I think that if we do that, that monetary increase will happen. I think over time, there is already, you see a huge transition of value of Indian architects. We are able to give a very high quality of work. This is certainly valued by customers all over the country. And there is that slight transition. But as an entry level student, it is extremely hard world. Financially, yes, you do start at, a tough starting point. But if there is commitment and passion and, you're able to work through the process, I think there is satisfaction, great satisfaction in the profession. And, I think every profession needs that touch of luck. And I think, it's like a marriage. If everything, all the stars align, good things will happen.
So that was Nandini Sampath from Somaya Kalapa at one of the COA socials. I'd like to quote Sharon Portnoy here from Mill Valley, California, who recently, with reference to her struggle to breach the glass ceiling, said that at some level, I will always wonder whether I failed at my profession or if my profession failed me. And here, Nandini talks about the need for a strengthened ecosystem of professionals who support each other, irrespective of differences. This is essential for change to come by. And I think that those are some of the things that the president touched also in his opening statement, opening remarks, that we need, to stick together, do certain things right, for all of us to come together and make that difference. So even women feel completely secure that, they are going to be taken care of.
Profession.
If you look at the right side, or if you look at any decision-making process, whether it is to hire a candidate at an interview, whether it is to decide what kind of promotions you'd like to give the person, or whether what kind of pay should be the person's prerogative, or even if you look at design decisions, we find that some of them are dictated by what you know about the person, whether the person is what gender the person belongs to, whether the person is differently abled, what age is the person from, what kind of cultural background the person comes from, etc. And I think if John Rawls talks about this veil of ignorance, if that is introduced and everybody is looked at as, with none of these colored vision, everybody for what they are and not for whether they are which gender, what background, and so on. I think the decisions we make in terms of what should the salary be, etc., would be purely based on what the person deserves. And that brings us to the question of parity in gender. I think it's essential for us to really look at what's happening in our profession as far as parity goes. Are we looking at everybody treated equally? Are people being paid differently because they are from one gender or the other? Are they getting, are they getting different kinds of opportunities to work, projects that they get? Are they all different because they belong to one gender or the other? Is something that is essential for us to look at. And I think some of these questions, the reason I'm bringing some of these points up are also because I'm trying to establish some kind of ground for the questions that will follow. If you look at gender parity, we just spoke about number of women in architectural institutes. We talked about it being 50-50. Some of them are 60, some of them are close to 100%. They are 100% because they're all women institutes. And in practice, we are seeing only 17%. And why does this happen is also something that I think many of us know. We've been talking about some of this. What can we do about this is also something that we as a community of architects, professionals need to brainstorm a lot more and get together to make that difference. This again kind of shows what happened in 2018, from where we really got those figures. That 60% we talked about was for 2018. And despite it being 60%, the percentage of independently practicing women is at 17%. So hence, gender parity at the COA needs to be addressed. Can faculty and students and alumni be in conversation with the committee to arrive at ways in which to deal with this? We're talking about at the internship level, at the fresh graduate level. But I think the difference gets much larger when the woman has to take a break for reasons of maternity leave and things like that. I think it's essential for some kind of bridge programs, and I think COA-TRC is already looking at it, some kind of certificate programs to keep for the woman to keep abreast with what's happening and start at least at the level that she left off and not lower than that level when she's able to come back to work. And also finding opportunities to work from home at that period, if there are advisories, and if there are, I know of offices that very happily allow women to work out of home, and we'll explore that as well as we get on with this session. Support for redressal in the case of infringement of their rights, and this is something that's the conversation that Habibji was talking about, that when he spoke about setting up of this committee, there were a lot of emails, we have a Google form on the COA website, which brought in a lot of anonymous complaints or anonymous information. And we're trying to see how we can streamline that and make COA a platform where we could actually provide different kinds of support. Harassment, it's commonly understood as behavior that demeans, humiliates, or embarrasses the person. And when it becomes explicitly sexual, then we're talking about it becoming a sexual harassment issue as well. This behavior can happen at work. It can happen at a work-related event. It can happen between colleagues outside of work as well. And these are all, can be taken into cognizance as offenses. There are 3 types of harassment this is information from the mandate of the Government of India and the Women's Cell. So there are 3 types of workplace harassment. There is verbal, written harassment, there's physical harassment, and there is visual harassment that comes from the cyber and the digital media and so on. The different mechanisms for filing complaints on sexual harassment at the workplace. I'll allow Deepak ji to elaborate on this as we conclude the presentation, but there is an internal complaints committee that needs to be set up. This is as per the Vishaka guidelines by each establishment. And in case no ICC is possible, then a local complaints committee needs to be set up. All complaint committees need to have 50% representation of women. And they are not supposed to have a position for longer than 3 years. So it needs to be in circulation. This brings us to the higher educational institutions, which have a huge role to play in ensuring a safe environment for those both students as well as faculty members in their campuses. And like I said, in areas that are related to the campuses. And the responsibilities of the higher educational institutions is to constitute an internal complaint committee, initiate strict action in case of misconduct, arrange orientations regularly for awareness, and I think prominently display names and phone numbers to register complaints all over the campus. While all this is said, and Habibji also mentioned that sometimes it's only on paper and none of these are sometimes functioning. I think it's also, even in the cases where it's functioning, it's important to ensure that you're giving a sense of safety and comfort to the person complaining that they will not be at the receiving end and they will not be victimized for bringing these things to book. It's important for us to look at, also equipping through our curriculum, how gender parity and topics like that do not just become electives, they actually become part of our learning methods and even our studio projects and everything. If these could be included in, it would be great. And also equipping young professionals with topics such as financial literacy, which makes them feel confident, which makes them feel empowered when they get out. Because, very often in a partnership firm, again, stereotyping of roles happens and someone takes care of finance management while the others are taking care of actual design and things like that. So it's important for the women also to be completely in the know in a partnership firm. And we've, again, through our COA social conversations in the past, talked about how if there is a break in the partnership or if there is a partner who ceases to exist, the woman should not be completely handicapped and should be able to manage and move forward. So we are looking at, there is a separate link for students, faculty members, and practicing architects to register their complaint and grievance on the COA website. You could write to register -COA@gov.in, gov.in, and COA assures you of an anonymity of the complainant. And, we would guide you on the legal procedures and refer you to the ICC or LCC that is within the jurisdiction. This is a screenshot of the Women's Grievance Cell on the website where you're expected to fill in your details. And that brings me to the end of this quick report, and I'll allow Apurva to take it from here before. I think I'd also like to mention here that Apurva herself is, as a woman, quite an achiever, and nobody's introduced her. But she's, gently and carefully carved a name for herself in the space. And she's a name to reckon with when it comes to journalism and architecture. And I'm really proud of what she does. Over to you, Apurva.
Geeta ma'am, thank you. Thank you so much for your kind words for me, and also for the very fascinating presentation on the theme. I think while the presentation posed many questions, but the example of gender inclusive initiatives you elaborated also exemplified positivity. And I do hope that we all can work towards a day when we will all be addressed as only architects and gender will not be a point of discussion. So Geeta ma'am, with your diverse associations and interactions in the field and industry over the decades, I am sure you either have witnessed or experienced these trials and tribulations of women in architecture. And I am sure you have many queries that are still unanswered. So I'm going to take the liberty to invite you back again to take forward the points of discussion in your presentation to a further panel discussion with all our guest presents here. So over to you, Geeta ma'am.
Thanks, Apurva. Since we concluded with the aspect on women harassment, sexual harassment, and the legal aspects of the ICC and LCC, I'd like to ask Deepak Kumarji, who is the legal advisor at COA, to elaborate a little bit more on what should the course of action be at the workplace and, of course, at the, if you look at the academic institutions for students as well, what should the course of action be followed?
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, distinguished guests. I would like to first begin by saying that the Government of India enacted the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act 2013 after this Vishakha judgment of Supreme Court, and wherein they have defined what constitutes sexual harassment. It is a physical contact and advances, a demand or request for sexual favors, making sexually colored remarks, showing pornography, any other unwelcome verbal, non-verbal conduct of sexual nature. Following circumstances also are treated as sexual harassment: implicit or explicit promise of preferential treatment in employment, implied or expressed threat or detriment treatment in her employment. So these are also have been held as instances of sexual harassment. Then comes the duties of an employer. The section 19 of the Act defines the duties of an employer. First, to provide safe working environment at workplace, this shall include safety from the person coming into contact at workplace. To display at a conspicuous place in the workplace penal consequences of sexual harassment, and the order constituting the internal committee. Well, every office, every establishment should at the prominent places display who are the members of the committee, their name, their contact numbers, their email ID. This is mandatory. If this is not there, there is a penalty of rupees 50,000 on the concerned establishment. So this is a law which must be complied with by each and every establishment, whether it is architect's office, whether it is an institution. Third is to organize workshops, awareness program at regular intervals, sensitizing the employees with previous provisions of the Act, orientation programs, members of the internal committee in the manner as may be prescribed, to provide necessary facilities to the internal committee or local committee to assist securing attendance of respondent and witness before the internal committee, to make available such information as the internal committee or local committee may require, to provide assistance to women if she chooses to file a complaint in relation to an offense under IPC or any other law for the time being in force. If somebody is not satisfied with these committees' work or the result or output she's getting, she can also file a complaint with the police. Where sexual harassment takes place as a result of an act or omission by a third party or outsider, the employer shall take all necessary steps to assist the affected party and take preventive measures. Like if it is done by your colleague or something, that is fine. If somebody outside or a visitor does it, then also the employer must take necessary steps to ensure safety of women. Cause initiate action under IPC. Well, you have to file an FIR, and all these proceedings are held confidential. You need not, your name would not be revealed, and you will have full confidence in the working of the committee and how it is going on. You will not, you will not be, your name will not come in picture anywhere. And these will be held in such a manner that you feel, yes, some action is being done. And the complaint can be made within 3 months. The time period for making a complaint from the date of the incident, within 3 months, you can make a complaint to the internal committee or to the local complaints committee. The internal committee is by the employer itself. If the number of employees are less, or you are not able to get the number of, like, the committee has to be headed by a senior women employee. If she's not available, then you can have it from other office. Or even that is not available, then you can, this committee can have refer its matter to directly to the local complaints committee, which is constituted by the district collector of every district. It is mandatory by law. It is written that every district magistrate or district collector, by whatever the term the name is called, they have to constitute this committee for redressal of grievances of the women.
What is the, yeah, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, the who can, first is the complaint can be filed by the victim herself. Another is that her relatives, co-worker, special educator, or qualified psychiatrist, guardian, or an officer of the National Commission for Women, any person whom she has confidence, she can file the complaint on behalf of the victim. And the whole process will get completed within a period of 1 month. Within 7 days, the internal committee has to start work, and they will have to complete within a month all these proceedings. Yeah, ma'am, you were having some questions.
I was just asking, what is the role of a bystander? Suppose I have noticed something that is wrong that's happening. Am I also obliged to make that complaint?
I can be a witness, and I can write to the concerned authority that this has happened in your organization. Maybe the victim, because of feeling shamed, or maybe whatever the reason she's not complaining, then bystander can also point out to the employer this incident has happened, and you must take action in confidence, and take in confidence the concerned victim with you and take an action.
Right. Yeah, thank you. We'll probably come back to you for anything else that we may have. I'd like to just thank Madhvi for having been a co-traveler in this initiative of ours. Teacher and an author, you've been working in this realm of gender and built environment for as long as I know. And you're the founding member of the Feminist Collective in Architecture, India. So my question to you, Madhvi, is to do with really the space of academics on how can holistic solutions and integrated learning be initiated in architectural education with respect to gender parity. I mentioned this in passing during the presentation, saying that we're not talking about electives or special courses, but actually internalizing an inclusive design process.
Yeah, thank you, Geeta. First of all, being a member of the committee, I'm aware of the limitations we've had and the work we have not done.
Yes.
I'm extremely excited that this issue has finally come out in the public realm. And I want to thank Habibji and Sapna and all the others and you. So, you know, it is about time that we did this. And so I think you are right. We don't need electives. We don't need special courses. We need to bring the gender issue into the mainstream. And when we say women, I always include non-binary genders, but
Yes.
you know, we don't know enough about, I don't know enough about, so I don't talk about it. But I think we should start from the educational institutions so that it will trickle down to the industry. Of course, there are special steps that we need to take at the industrial level, but education is extremely important. And I thought about the 19th century, you know, when men had colonial education, they started looking at their own women in with a little different view. And they called it the woman's question, historically speaking. So now at least we have moved from the woman's question to gender, but still it is mostly a women's issue. And if we look at our own committee, we see that only poor Satish is the other male member. So I think—
I ensured Thiru came in as one
yeah,
of the—
yeah, I know, but the 2 years we've been working. So I think we need to really, you know, get over that. So just very quickly, I know the time is very short. So something that you mentioned, the studio, you know, we get studio projects as if it is in built environment is gender neutral, and it is not now that we know. So I think very consciously in some of the semesters, women's hospital, women's hostels, women's shelters, nursery, will sensitize not just the women, but the men also. And I think we should have little micro projects like the bus stand that you showed or gardens, how we can make the existing spaces more women friendly, safe, with better lighting, etc. Then in theory, most of the women students and the men students don't know what is the women's movement in India. And, we all think that we are so smart because we were born smart, but we don't realize how our grandmothers lived and how much distance we have traveled. So a little bit exposure to women's movement, exposure to feminist theory. I used to teach a course at CEPT called Gender in the Indian City or Gender in Architecture. And we did a lot of hands-on things, and I think the students loved it. And in history, women architects, history, contemporary narratives of women, all this, plus we need to promote and train women faculty and invite women as jurors and lecturers, give them the real importance, which has not been done so far. So that's about my views for the time being.
Thanks, Madhvi. I hope there are enough academicians listening in, men and women and all gender really, and take away from you. I'd like to also just introduce quickly R.V. Thiruvengadam, who's an architect, urban designer, lighting designer. I've known him from his time at TVB School of Habitat Studies as a student, went on to do his master's from SPA Delhi, and is working in the space of lighting just now and runs a practice design studio. Would you like to add to this, Thiru?
Yeah. Thanks, Gita. Thanks, everyone. After hearing so many viewpoints, my two bits of thing on this is that this issue of harassment and women harassment, we need to isolate the two at the root. There are like architecture profession as such have certain inbuilt biases or practices that we think are okay. For example, the office timing for that respect. Okay, that you are supposed to you are supposed to work late or do 16 hours, 12 hours, which might not be possible for some people. That's why what we see is that despite having in academic majority women, the practice does not reflect the same because the practice as such is not a gender friendly scenario. That's also the case because as a country we are not really sensitized to this situation or equation. Now that's a bigger debate. How do we educate everyone in this scene? Now we can start with sensitizing.
We've lost you, Thiru.
Now, having seen practice and academics from close point of view, we are also, I think, putting too much pressure on academics alone. This is where we think the COA needs to play a more active role in terms of educating professionals what is not acceptable anymore. Okay, there was a term used by the used by lawyer. The harassment can also be the psychological, verbal. That the words that you use are not acceptable to everyone. Now people don't know that. So most of the people don't know that what I'm doing, my action can cause some distress to my employee or or the or my consultant or client, or they don't know this words or statement can be taken multiple ways. So I think in today's time, the first step should be awareness. Okay, and the second thing is to speak out when something happens. Speaks out. Now, both of the things can only happen in a very comfortable environment, not in a stress place. But for that to happen, I personally feel CEO has a bigger role to yeah, to educate fellow professional or existing professional. Unless we start targeting existing professional and say, look, this is what was done. What this will be this is not acceptable. anymore. I was discussing the same thing with my office colleagues, and they said the first thing that they have, that having a washroom in the site, which becomes a big deterrent for 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 women, and that becomes the main concern by whether or not they should go to site, what time they should go to site, how they should go to site. And us being lighting designers, we work at nights. Okay, so for us the the situation is very trickier. So we get filtered applications because people understand that, look, facade lighting can't happen in day. No, so that becomes a concern. uh, which the main profession has in itself.
That's interesting.
So-
You raised quite a few important points, and I think Vidya and Satish ji have been Vidya ji and Satish ji have been speaking about some of this in our conversations, and I'll take them up on this a little later. I'd like to quickly introduce you to two young, one young and one very young architect that we have with us. The young architect is Savneet, who's the principal architect. She's already introduced by Apurva as the principal architect at Imarat. She did a master's in sustainable development from Chandigarh College of Architecture. And happy to inform you that recently she was awarded the Best Architect Award in the Sustainable category by IIA in collaboration with the Times of India Group. She's also a faculty member at Dharmalia Institute of Compassionate Living. To speak about Shruti, who's a young graduate. She graduated from BMS School of Architecture in 2018 and started a professional career with Balan and Nambisan, and then went forward to work with Mistry Architects. And she's currently working with Ethos. And she's tried, her work has also been to understand the different stages of design, right from development to execution. And she's for sure worked on sites as well. So I'd like to quickly ask both of you the same question, and maybe you could take turns answering it. We talked about inherent biases. Even Thiru just referred to biases in the profession, but there are societal biases as well. Our society conditions us to think, behave, and react in certain ways that reflect these biases. How can we stop or change this to ensure inclusive society? If either of you, Savneet, would you like to start first?
Yeah, sure. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so primarily, I think you're very right that the bias exists more in society itself than, till we come to the profession. We've been talking a lot since we started this discussion on how safe it is and sexual harassment and other problems that women face. But I think the root is even before that. Even at homes, girls while growing up are considered, is this profession for girls or it's not? Medicine and teaching are good for girls. Is architecture good for girls? I mean, it is a bias that is rooted right within our homes from where we get our students in the first place. And primarily, initially it was thought that architecture, when I was, and I joined college, that probably it's not a profession for girls. How would you go on sites? How would you do things like this kind of thing? Once you are in it, you realize, but unlike the others, when we joined, we were a batch of 17 girls and 7 boys in our class. And I'm happy to say that all 17 are practicing. But the difference is that, once you are in that range, not just the harassment part, but a lot of young girl architects leave the profession for other reasons. As in, we've been having so many young architects, and when it comes to, would you be working a year, 2 years? Sometimes the parents at home, the pressure is that 1 or 2 years, and then you get married. And this, they would be told that this is just for the fun of it till you get married. That commitment that I have to make a career out of it is not there per se from their homes itself, for a large number of people. So the bias exists right at home. I think besides just the higher educational colleges, we need to be tapping not just the architects, but as in architectural education, like we have NATA and we have entrance tests, probably some kind of a counseling test that would you be ready to dedicate your working time to this profession? It's not just a theoretical profession you'd be required to. I think architecture needs lots of skills, and women per se are better suited to architecture because they are more empathetic. They are capable of multitasking. I mean, you've been running a practice. You need all the things that you pointed out in your presentation financial, this thing, your ability to social interaction, your management skills, your leadership skills. These are various skills that are not taught per se in colleges. But I think, yes, if we were to address them, I think women are better at architects. But the bias has to go right from the start of this, that we're out here to make a difference and make a career. So even though this, starting point is small, it is not like a hobby for some, as people are told. And once I think that mindset changes, that, we are here to make a career, we're here to make a difference, it'll change by seeing the number of women in the field. Then we come to the later aspects of what they face, the challenges. But you're right, I think bias has to go from the societal, from the home itself.
Which is a tough one. Thank you so
I
much.
like to come in and say that I will not say that one gender is better than the other gender or so. In today's time, I think because we are starting this, we need to accept that genders are not binary anymore. Okay, and these kind of situation has to be accepted from us, who are so-called educated people who have done bachelor's, masters in and architecture. Education is not like a basic graduation, all those things. I'm not putting them down, but the amount of exposure an architecture graduate gets from handling clients to materials. So we handle all walks of life while doing construction. Now that means there is a responsibility on a designer that's imparted by the client to deliver some things. So it's fair to expect them to be more sensitive toward these concerned situations, but that's not so. Most of the firms have the unwritten rule: who can work, who cannot work, what time to work, what time not to work. It can be related to various things. We had this debate in some time back within a colleague, that why people do masters or why people are not practicing architecture, and then gender became one big concern. Look, being a girl, I cannot go sighted this time. What I feel as a male audience in this situation is that some of this is self-imposed because of the societal constraint that we are in. Okay, the same people, when they go to Singapore or New York, they have it's equally stressful being an architect, whether in Delhi or Chennai or New York. So, but they're okay with the night shifts or working late or going to start and getting the work done. Maybe because they are more organized, more structured, and
it's
we are
also
not.
possible because their infrastructure supports them far better.
Exactly.
Right? So
Yes.
I think that it comes from there.
So
as
construction industry that is more evolved than our industry. But that can only be evolved in our concern if we have more women on job to make sure that change happens. Now,
so I think Shruti will have a point of view there, because I have been chatting with her on some of this. So would you like to? I mean, I think you'll probably be able to resonate with what Thiru is saying. Yeah.
Yeah, so to take forward from what you guys had told, inherent bias is a very thought-provoking topic. And as a recent graduate, I mean, not very recent, but graduate from 2018, and from the architecture education that we had, in my class, there was 60% women, I mean, young girls as architects. I mean, who was pursuing, even now, to be happy, all my batchmates are practicing right now, and which is very rare in a current scenario. So what we as architects could do is we can remove the stereotypical notions like within ourselves when we get into the field as such, and we can openly communicate our thoughts, actions, and things what could happen in the future, rather than going back, I'm a girl, I'm not gonna work late in the night or go to sites very late or something like that. So for an inclusive society to where each and every single person is being included, this to thoughtfully accomplish this goal, I feel like this positive attitude should be there, where you can put down your thoughts, like how Thiru and Savneet ma'am had told before. You can maximize your personal social interaction and like remove all the bias that you have towards what you can have with. And in the firms that I had been associated with, they were always
so you were fortunate to be in firms that were already sensitive, but maybe you can also throw some light on your contemporaries where you saw something different happening.
Yes. So when I used to chat with my colleagues or my peer friends who are still in the field, they are petrified about the fact that being a girl, we are not respected at site. So many of my friends have an establishment where they have joined with a male architect and it's basically a female architect and a male architect. That's how the current trend or the current scenario works. And they feel like when we go to site, whatever we tell to contractors or be it the vendors or be it the laborers at site, they don't pay heed or they don't give us more importance when compared to the so one of my friends came and told to me that he told the contractor to tell this, and he eventually gave heed and he executed it at site. But when I told the same thing, he was like, this cannot be done, ma'am, and all that, because they were questioning our own existence in this particular field. And that's something I think as young as architects, we need to give more stress on. I mean, being very in a field which requires back-to-back site visits and the practical scenario that we are looking at, I feel we need to address these situations in even more
assertively.
Yes,
You need
effectively.
to-
And
yeah, go on. Sorry, go on.
This also, I feel like, stems from the fact that when we are in our architectural education itself, some professors and some people are under the impression that women, girls or women students are only, fit for some subjects such as interior design or product design, or in fields that are it's been there since so long, and I feel like it's getting carried forward even today. But I feel like we can make a change in how, so for example, even while they are assigning grades or marking them on a different basis, so they give more, they prioritize men in subjects such as structures, civil works, etc. But then when you see the grades that the girls or young girls who are in, so it just goes into their head that, okay, I'm good for this. So that's one of the main reasons why in the ID field nowadays there are more women acting upon. I mean, that's a good thing, but then I feel like it stems from the upbringing itself. So
Nice.
I mean, it cannot be done overnight, but I feel small changes such as changing your notions, preconceived notions of how this is going to act, over time it makes a lot of difference in how the field is being looked at.
Thanks, Shruti. Thanks. I think I'll get Apurva to speak on this later, because you talked about the alternate streams, and I think Apurva can talk a lot on that. Smita ji, are you here? If you can just elaborate more on that, because I think you will be speaking from a prism of experience where one, you are teaching, so you see students, and the fact that some students get the male students get a certain kind of preference or in terms of topics and themes, and the girl students get it differently. I know you would probably say it doesn't happen at Priyadarshini, but how do you handle something like this? Which does happen. There are students who probably are facing it. And the second thing, in practice as well, considering both of you share a practice, a partnership, if you can also throw some light on how, you made your own space for yourself there.
Thanks, Geeta. Yeah, definitely. I'd like to address these two issues. One that I feel is biases are there and biases won't go away, how much ever you try, because once you say there is no bias, that means our society is entirely spiritually evolved, and that is not to be, not in our life spans.
Absolutely.
So we got to live with the biases. But I think we are getting extremely aware. We are getting aware because of social media. We are getting aware because there's a global connect. And don't think women in the West are not facing these biases.
Absolutely.
It's all over. But then the biases is because it's a women's forum, and today we have women in architecture. Men also undergo bias. So I'm not talking about it right now, because I'm not really going to get into, open up a Pandora's box, because, each gender in his own way has issues in life. Let's only talk about the women today and the inclusivity, especially. But we can definitely make a change. Now, there's no single solution, because it's very difficult. We are also on the social media right now, that if any solutions be proposed, It's going to be difficult. There cannot be any solution. The issue itself is quite varied. But all the time we are trying to look out for some advice or some solutions, like a one solution fits all. No, it always has to be done with intelligently, and it can never be a single solution given from somebody to somebody. It will never help anywhere. So we got to deal with it as it comes. One of the things that I would like to say for all of us as women is that we need to start celebrating ourselves. We need, whatever be our status in life, whether I'm able to come to a private practice, which is being hyped so much, even in our own forum, by 17% ही है जो privately और independently काम कर रहे हैं. नहीं भी कर रहे हो, काम तो कर रहे हो, सीखे तो हो. You're a highly educated professional. अपने पैर पे मेरे नाम की पार्टी लगी है बाहर और मैं काम कर रही हूँ, ये जरूरी नहीं है. So let that not get you down. Please, that's not important. Our own professors used to talk to us like that now, way back when I graduated about 35 years ago. That is how it used to be spoken. Girls will never stand on their feet. They'll never have an independent practice. See, even today, I don't have an independent practice. I'm in partnership, but that doesn't mean that I'm not contributing. That doesn't mean that I'm not gaining experience. That doesn't mean that I'm not financially independent. Yes, I am all of this. So why are we, creating a hype about that private practice and my name? Not necessary. Okay. First thing and foremost thing is to begin by celebrating yourself as women. Why? Because a lot of young women I'm seeing think that marriage, we talk about you get married and then things start going wrong. You get babies and things start going wrong. So there are a lot of young women who are talking in terms of not getting married. बच्चा आएगा, शादी होगी, तो कितना प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगा मेरे करियर का. यार जिंदगी बहुत लंबी है. Let the time come. Get married, man. No issues. Get your babies. 5-10 साल इधर लंबी है. Yeah, because see, the young women are getting discouraged. This is what is happening. A lot of them take this decision कि शादी नहीं करनी है. क्यों भाई? तुम्हारे साथ के लड़के तो शादी कर रहे हैं. तुमने क्यों नहीं करनी है? क्योंकि प्रोफेशन करना है, क्योंकि करियर बनाना है. No. That is what I'm saying. Celebrate womanhood. Let the children come. Let the marriage happen, and then the career will also happen. If you have it in you, it comes out. So to some of us, we never stopped because we had parental supports. There are several of them who don't have parental supports. फिर क्या होता है? कुछ नहीं होता, थोड़ा दाइन चला जाता है. It happens. Aren't we a committee supposed to be encouraging? So here I am just wanting to encourage. जैसे भी हो जाए, जो भी हो जाए, आएगा, टाइम आएगा, आप खड़े रहोगे. तो आज हम क्या बात कर रहे हैं? हम इंक्लूसिविटी की बात कर रहे हैं. हम इक्विटी की बात करें. इक्वालिटी की बात तो मैं कभी ना करूं. Why will I do what men do? I don't want to. Men are meant to do a few things. Let them do it. Why should I do what the man does? So all of us today understand we are not talking equality. We are talking equity. And we are not talking only equity of women. We are talking of all genders. Today we understand that equity is something that happens to many of us. Various different orientations we are talking about. यार उनके जिंदगी में उनके get yourself into those shoes and then you'll realize that life is still harder for others. So it's equity at all points of time. Let me come to the profession part of it. But my lot of silver these days, I'm at a bit of an advantage. So when it's time for you to go silver, just go silver. It works. But it's not easy. When I'm on a site in Nagpur, I know most of these people because they've grown up with us. A lot of these vendors, contractors, they were also young, we were also young. So there's a lot of respect. They know. But if you go to a new city, which I did recently, and I went into a new site, and then there was this first time a situation like that, I was quite amused because we know what's happening on site. Come on, we are educated. We've been handling these things, but a new contractor suddenly got on his nerves. Either he was on his nerves or he was just trying to, downplay me as a new architect on the site. There was a time when I pointed out a few things and I said, isko na thodi dusri treatment deni padti. Because he refused to look at me as an architect on the side, although understanding that most of the problems that I was asking questions for were not getting answered. Iska matlab hai either tu problem create kar raha hai, tere ko aaya nahi hai kaam karne, main dikha rahi hu ki you put these things right, yeah. Finally, I said, stop for a minute. Let me have a word to word with you. I said, listen, you and me are on the same side of the line. I'm not on the other side. We are playing the game together. You are a contractor on the side. I'm an architect on the side.
Terrific.
So why are you trying to throw the ball at me and want me to respond? This is not the way it goes. Together we have to throw the ball and see that the people on the other side respond. ये क्या तमाशा होता है भाई? So ऐसा होता है कि you have to wait. Yeah, silver or no silver, you have to stop and address issues right there, right then. So I think these are some of the things that I would like to say. Hands-on करने का ये सब चीज. अभी बाद में होते, there are issues, there are problems. I will not say they are not, but you got to be a badass. You got to get your way. You know, you should never step back. And this is to all young women my age, to the students, everybody. मेरे यहाँ मेरे क्लास में ये कभी नहीं होता है कि भाई you have done something good or you have done something bad. I take care. So that is why a lot of us are saying that in academics, you must have injuries, you must invite more women, you must talk about their work in history, also in contemporary era. You know, this kind of thing should definitely happen. And I'm sure it is happening slowly, steadily. How many ladies are there in academics? Tell me how many women professors? So most of the boys are taking their training. The basic training is coming from the women. I'm sure they're going to go out with a very positive mindset. और थोड़ा बदल भी गया तो वहां भी है ना हम लोग खड़े रहने के लिए नहीं so yeah that's
Thank
all.
you. That was a Hatke opinion and standpoint, and I think a lot of valid points. I mean, you've given hope to all those youngsters listening to you, I'm sure. Thank you for that. And you know, you Madhavi and others have also spoken about multiple gender, and we need to address all gender. And Cambridge Dictionary yesterday came under fire for redefining or changing the meaning of man and woman to include other gender as well. And I think they are under fire. So it's a dynamic world, and I think we're changing, evolving, and going different places. At this point, I'd like Architect Satish to kind of step in and tell us how things have changed in the course of his career. He has, I think, over 25 years of practice at the firm that he's running, and he's also been, part of a lot of policy-making bodies. Currently, in the Governing Council for School of Architecture, nominated by VTU. And I think it'll be really nice to hear from him to see how things have changed and what he sees going ahead.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Habib sir and Sapna ma'am and Geeta ma'am for giving me this opportunity. There is a drastic change. See, my inspiration is my mother. She's 76, and I think today also she's at site. She's a developer. She's a real estate thing. My dad is with her, supporting. My dad is a doctor, but he's retired long back. Now he's supporting my mom, and sometimes she sits in my office and guides me, and sometimes she mocks at me, saying this is not the way it has to be done. And I've always, she's been an inspiration for me to get into architecture. The way in my house, there's nothing like women shouldn't do. Is my mother, my sisters, my wife, everybody works. And the way we see this, it has never been part like harassment kind of thing. It is not like, oh, somebody is harassing, I won't do the work. That is a man's world. That never been. They've always been dashing and daring, going and getting the work done. And the attitude what they carry, maybe because of the work experience or because of the social, economic, and cultural background, gave them a lot of push to get into this. And I see the generation now is much stronger, competitive, and what skills is needed. They have more skills than needed to start a journey in architecture. And as there are a lot of women in architecture, that bias, I don't say my office is run by women. And it gives me pleasure to say that there's a lot of headache gone from me, my shoulders, that they take care of it so well. It is not about position, it is not about money, it is about comfortability, it is about that togetherness and the support in which the office they do. And they decide to go to site, or the civil engineer has to go, the other boys or somebody else has to go to the site. They decide and they take care. And even the boys, they know when to send a female architect to the site or not. Yeah, there, because of the social economic, as Smita ma'am said, sometimes the contractors or the owners, to listen to a women architect or to take orders from a woman architect, they think it is not their this thing. But the things have changed, and they have to. And yesterday you saw in Lok Sabha, between Mohu Pata and Nirmala Sitharaman, the way like women are, it's not, they're into space exploration to Arctic exploration. They're into armed forces. The A308 is run, it's been flown by women. It's just the opportunities has to be used in the right way. There will be these challenges, and we shouldn't get bugged and run away from this, and to face this and move forward. And as male colleagues, or as a student friend, I think everywhere they've been supported. Maybe once here and there some things have happened, but I think 100% sure that they're clearly taken care by the management or the legal department. So I feel they shouldn't get bogged down by all these challenges which we face. They're doing extremely well. Presently, the architecture, most of the offices are filled with women architects, whom I know and my friend circle, and are run by women. And that perspective, which what they see, and they run the office, definitely can't be run by a male or a. I am sure that you also agree, Geeta.
Thank you for that perspective. I'd like to also, Vidya ji, who's VNIT alumni and did her master's in architectural education. She runs her own independent office. She's empaneled with nationalized banks and has been a property valuer also. I'd like to really, we've been discussing this as part of the committee, and she's been extremely concerned about harassment at the workplace, being issues that young interns and fresh architects encounter. Of course, gender parity as well is something that she's been very vocal about. What can our colleges do to help prepare our youngsters for such situations? What can COA and our committee help with? And, can like professional community showcasing best practices? Like what I mean is, if firms that are doing the right thing are showcased, would that help things? If Vidya ji, if you can spend some time on that. You're on mute. You're on mute. No problem.
Yeah, thank you so much. And first, I really want to thank Council for coming up with this committee. When I was doing my master's and when I had to do my dissertation, I thought, let me come out with some dissertation project which should not remain as a part of the library only. And since I was practicing independently and I was facing many issues, so I really worked on that. And that time I remember only Madhavi ma'am's reference was there. Her book and her articles were the only references for me, which was given to me by Ujjwala ma'am. And I'm so happy now, 10 years down the line, we are, here on this platform, taking up this issue. So at the outset, thank you so much, Council, for taking up this committee. And before I answer your question, I really want to tell you one thing. Basically, it comes from the family. As everyone knows that so many parents put up their girls into architecture because it's a professional course and many other reasons for that. But they hardly encourage their daughters to continue with the profession. We are 4 sisters, 2 are doctors, 1 is engineer, and myself architect, and our parents have constantly encouraged us, and they were there by our side whenever we need any support. So that family system, family support is absolutely important. I was also associated with academics, and I have seen parents putting up their girls, and they're least interested what the daughter is doing. Whether she's working the whole night or just watching movies on the laptop, they are not bothered about it. They never cared to ask to the faculty, or even if we make a call and attempt to bring them to the notice that your daughter is not working, they will say, no, it's your duty and your responsibility. Hamari beti to kaam karti rehti hai, wo to raat bhar kaam karti hai. So that is one thing which has to be taken care by the parents, basically. Now, coming to your question, I think basically for the colleges, it is very important for the faculty members to understand that the student, when it joins the college, he or she has actually undergone a typical methodology of learning. So he is conditioned to certain system. And when we teach in colleges, it is little different. So first, they have to make students unlearn to learn this method. And it is a 5 years of professional grooming. So apart from imparting the knowledge, I think faculty's responsibility is also to give them that professional qualities which are required, and which includes everything that all of us have been talking about. So with this, actually, the first step when the student goes into the industry is at the internship level. So before internship, I think the colleges should undertake some kind of orientation program about do's and don'ts, right? Make them understand what is to be done in case if there are certain harassment issues or something like that. And if there are issues, the student must register that complaint with the practicing architect, of course, with the college also. And college should in turn register a complaint with council. And I think colleges should also start blacklisting the architects. And I would request council also, if they can, blacklist the architect and put their names on the website. So probably this kind of, probably 1 or 2 cases like this will really help the industry to understand that, okay, we can't do this. CO is there, the regulatory body is there, and they are looking at the well-being of the students and also of the profession, because if we are doing things like this, we are defaming our profession.
So what you're suggesting, sorry to interrupt, what you're suggesting is that after a proper investigation by the ICC or the LCC, once it is established, then they are called out, is what you're saying.
Yes. I think we have to, otherwise this issue will remain the same, usko itna lightly nahi lena chahiye. That's my submission actually. So colleges can really, take up certain, as I say, help from the behavioral sciences faculty as well. There are subjects, of course, in the curriculum also, where you can understand how to read the body language, basically. See, I'm talking about the harassment case right now. So you have to understand the person, their body language, how they are reacting, how they are addressing to you.
To be able to identify where that line is.
Yes. Because unfortunately, today's students, they really don't understand that difference. Because when they are in
no gender, I'm saying even the offender does not often understand that they are crossing the line. So
that they are crossing the line.
Offender also, the possible offenders also to know where it stops.
Yes, that's right. So it's very, very important. And as I always say that when a student enters the university, he or she is of 18 years of age. And those 5 years are the prime years or foundation years of their lives. So a lot of responsibility actually comes on the shoulders of the faculty. I understand it's like asking more from them, because as it is, it's a semester pattern and they have to complete the syllabus, etc. But this thing is also very, very important. So they have to groom the child to become a perfect, not perfect, but a good professional. And on the part of the community, I think the professional community should understand that they have to follow the guidelines and regulations and advisories given by the council. That is first thing. They should ensure that the environment of the office is healthy. And they actually should try to make an attempt to monitor the behavior of the interns or the fresh graduates. You can just easily make out if the girl is not comfortable, you can easily make out that she is not comfortable and there is something wrong there. So the principal architect should take some effort to monitor the behavioral pattern of the employees. He should also see the safety of the women employees and should, of course, give the equal opportunity. Even if she has to be sent to the site, he must ensure that she is safe there, And again, he has to make her feel comfortable. So there has to have some interaction, conversation. Normally, it is seen that the chief architect, delegates the job to the supervisor or the senior architect, and senior architect in turn converse with the interns and delegate the job to the interns. But the office belongs to the principal architect. So it becomes his responsibility to see that everyone in the office is safe, there is a healthy environment, and there is a better productivity. Then if the environment is good, then there is a better productivity, of course. So this interaction interaction has to be there, right? And communication, of course, has to be there. And colleges also, in case of interns, colleges should continuously take an update from the interns, whether she is comfortable there or how things are going. Sometimes, what faculty says that, "Theek hai yaar, kuch nahi hota hai, kar lo, adjust kar lo." And students are always under the pressure that they have to complete 100 days of internship. So what will happen if I leave the internship in between? So in this situation, it is the college that has to support the student. Even if she's not able to complete at that place because she feels that discomfort, she should be asked to come back. Yes, she should be asked to come back to her home, and we can find some alternate arrangement can be made, of course, there. So, community also has to be, the industry also has to see that the interns are safe, and we all should be able to enjoy the work, and should be able to provide a healthy and safe environment. And there are other issues that everyone is talking about, the provisions of toilets and safety and, flexibility in timings, etc. So yes, that has to be there. And it, things are changing, as rightly said by Smita, things are changing. And we have seen, as rightly pointed out by her, that we have seen that part, that it's very difficult for the male contractors to take instructions from a female. But we have our ways and means because they have been working with us for so long. But yes, things are changing and we should take it very positively. And I think with the efforts that COA is taking, definitely things would change.
Thank you. I'm so glad we are speaking from the lens of what needs to be done, as systemic changes, and not really expecting the individuals to change. Of course, we need to empower them as well, but the onus is really on the system. I'm glad we are doing that. And I think the bottom line here seems to be empathy. And, that's something that needs to really percolate. Sabniji, would you like to add something to this discussion?
Yeah, actually, I was just thinking that very relevant points were just given by her on how, especially I've been on visiting faculty as a teacher for 6-7 colleges around the area. And as you probably know, nationwide, Haryana is the worst where, respect for women is concerned. In my career, however, I didn't face, but I used to see these young girls. So about 4 years ago, about 2 years before COVID, I think, we started a program in our institute, which was a short course on professional practice, mainly for young girl architects, because we'd had girl architects coming over, switching internships with these complaints. And so we'd, take on an intern even after 2 months because the previous firm was, harassing the girl in some way or something like that. And when we complained to the college that, her out of 100 days, something should be done like this to change the internship, the colleges were not responsive, like she just said. So that initiative from the council to the colleges should be there, number one. So that complaint, an architect is complaining, the practice is complaining, the student is complaining, some action should be taken. Or like she said that we could blacklist those colleges, something that prevents this from going on, that, girls can change this. And to actually foster more equality on a personal level, we've been actually training girls on the abilities to practice professionally so that you get the deserved respect. And, like I think Apurva said, at the end of it, you're considered an architect, male or female, irrelevant. I mean, that's how your image or your professionalism and your work should show. We're all hoping for that day, but there are certain ways even the youngsters need to be, groomed in how to handle the nuances of an architectural practice, handle themselves on site or in a workplace, because not every time it's the, organization's fault. Sometimes the youngsters themselves are not fully equipped to handle themselves. So a bit of a training on that front that, even as practice owners, as senior architects, we can help the youngsters to learn the ropes. But some things out of experience that we've learned can also be taught. And like she said that maybe some such short courses even in the colleges probably, because before they go for internships or in general behavioral science, body languages, things, these are a lot of things that are not taught. Probably architecture is not the place, even other professions may be facing them, but because we are architects and we want them to do better work. So I think with this initiative that the council has taken and with this platform and things, at least they are brought on the front, and sometimes we may lose a really good potential architect because of, initial years of some struggle of this thing. And if that can be avoided through our platform, I think I'm very glad that we can, encourage and form steps to enable such change in our profession. And wait for that day when we are, consider equity instead of equality.
Madhvi, you have something.
I'm sorry, it's I will just not take too long, but
No, it's all. I'd love to hear.
No, as I told you, I'm not so well, so I need to go, but I have a few points here what the faculty members can do about, developing the confidence. And I think the key thing, as somebody said, is creating the awareness and accepting the issue, which is now, it seems that, we are sort of on the same page, and accepting the issue and having an open discussion with the students, whoever is having a problem. Because otherwise, a lot of the girls think I'm not making it in the profession because I'm not good enough.
Good enough, right.
Which is not true. Then I think we need to identify and stress on the missing skills. For example, the technical aspects, the confidence that you get at site visits. Then we really need to reduce the emphasis on design studio. And we all know in reality, in the practice, we don't spend 90% of the time on design. So I think that for me is a very crucial aspect. Then we need to learn or teach them a little bit about business, a little bit about real estate, because that is the reality now. And Vidya talked a lot about the internship, sexual harassment, but I think the internship itself needs to be better.
Crafted better, yeah.
Crafted much better. And there has to be a standard kind of requirement. There has to be updates, as she said. So beyond, and for all genders, the internship period has to be really valuable and a learning experience. And finally, we need to have regional counseling centers, not just for sexual harassment, for any kind of issues that, yeah. So, and the last thing, Sapna, Habibji, I wish we can meet physically because I am very tired of the
online.
Not enough gets done in the Zooming. And thank you very much. And please excuse me.
Thanks, Madhvi. Take care.
Yeah.
I think, Madhvi mentioned this bit about empowering the women to speak up also. So Shruti, you are the youngest out here. Eventually, we are all saying that for a complaint to actually meet its logical end, the person who has been inflicted with the issue has to speak up. We don't see much of that happening, right? How do you have any ideas on how a firm or a college could help create that safe atmosphere? Although you might say anonymity and all that, but there are enough problems in coming out and speaking up, and not everybody has that courage. So how do you have any ideas?
Yeah, so it stems again. Like I said before, it depends. I mean, you have, like how Smitaji said, that you have to be a badass and you have to come out of the space and speak. I mean, I've been inspired from what she had told today, and you have to put forth your thoughts and what you feel, and not just be isolated in this particular field, because communication and social interaction is something which is very important when we are in our practice. And this basic typology of discrimination comes from fear and misunderstanding. So once we take that away from ourselves, or probably a young women architect or a girl goes and speaks to somebody at site, she should have the feeling that, okay, I can put forth my thoughts, and I feel like it has to come from within oneself. And how many of our regulations or so many central bodies work on it, it depends on the individual and for him or her to stand with that. So that is something which is more important. And I feel like whoever is practicing right now should give that much amount of importance in communication. And, we are professionals, and, the word profession itself has a lot of thing that how we behave and speak matters a lot. So the way you put it forth across matters a lot. So probably you have to come out and speak for yourself. And I've also heard a lot of anonymous people, telling about practices, and they are being shut out. And it's good that in a way that voices are heard nowadays. So
nice. I think mature head on a young shoulder. Thanks for that perspective. But I also think not everybody can be a badass, really. So I think it's important. Maybe council can look at actually highlighting those that come forward, and those cases that are resolved, so that then maybe those that are not so courageous kind of get the confidence that without revealing names, without creating controversies and problems for someone, a case has been resolved and the offender has been taken to task. I think those things are important to highlight, and maybe those are things that the council can look at. Smita, you were nodding. Would you like to add to that? Because I think it's important to give courage to those who are facing issues and are not able to speak up.
Absolutely. I mean, it is extremely daunting to be out there in the field, especially when you have not seen too much of it. Let me talk of people who don't come from an architectural background. There are these people who are stepping into the architectural field for the first time. So many of them for the first architects in the family itself. So, and the world is big and bad. So if there are such cases, yes, like Habib keeps telling me, that there needs to be hand-holding. There needs to be people whom you can reach out.
Trust.
Because it's not your family that can help you, but maybe the people in the profession can help you. Your peers can help you. Your professors can help you, There are other people on the site who can help you. But the idea is to be able to be open to communication. I think Vidya pointed this out, that there has to be an opening for communication. If you can't communicate, most of the problems, I think, will be resolved if you know you are approachable. This idea about being approachable is very important. And it's empathy at the end. You just pointed out that at the end, it is empathy at all of us. We were also talking of bystander. I'm able to see something going wrong. I'm not involved. Can I do something? In what way can I do? In what way can I approach? All of these things go together. And I think council has a big role there. And the Women's Committee is a wonderful thing that has happened, and it will continue to be with or without the same members. There will be new people coming in, but they will be there.
Right. Thank you. I think we're coming to the close. We should be concluding. Usually it's the woman who has the last word. I'll allow the man to have the last word this time. Satish, the options like maternity leave, work from home, career breaks, medical leave, menstruation leave during menstruation are discussed globally, but they're hardly present in our practices in India. Actually, don't such measures or such incentives, I wouldn't call them incentives, but necessities, actually help in improving productivity? And how can we make people aware about the impact of such interventions? You're on mute, Satish.
I agree. We don't discuss this in India, or we hesitate to discuss this kind of issues in a forum or in offices or in colleges. But when a woman is going through, it's not only this. The woman is going through the mental challenge, the mental and the challenges which she goes through, and the career or the maternity, and parallelly the career break she has to take because of maternity, and the medical leaves which she has to take. We have to sensitize this in the college level, so that this kids are the architects who are going to get into the profession, or going to be the colleagues, or going to start up office, or going to be at site. This issue has to be synthesized and handled in a very sensitive manner. So the end of the day, it should be a comfortable atmosphere for them to work there. that has to be created. Geeta, that's what I feel. Once this comfort level is created and it's taken care of by the office or the boss, anything, I think there will be no challenges in the productivity of the office. As 2 years COVID, still the productivity was there. Maybe it's become not those onto that limit, but still the office was running projects, at least in a small scale, projects were running, not the huge scale one. So when we could sit at home and through our laptops and WhatsApp chats, we could run the show. Why can't women sit at home and work? And we have to give them opportunities. We have to be very sensitive to their family, profession, all those things. So it has to be done in a step-by-step process in terms of profession, in terms of education, all those things. I think stage by stage, professional in the college level, the alumni has to play a bigger part, where they guide them in the career or in profession, or psychologically if they're affected by office or career breaks, all those things. And college can support them, offices can support them, which they have struggled all these years and taken a break. They can easily come back and get into design management, finance management, or office management, and slowly get back into the profession is one thing. It's a step-by-step process which can be done.
Easing back in, nice.
Yeah.
So although I said the man will have the last word, we have our convener who is a woman, so Sapna. I'd like you to say a few words on what can we do through the council to retain women in practice, the same things that we've been talking, of making them stay back if they want to pursue professional practice. What are the things that we can do to help them stay back?
Yeah, thank you, Geeta, and thank you everyone, who shared their thoughts today. I think it was very thought-provoking. I'm sure let us keep this event as part 1, and we need to continue because so many things have just come up. I've been making notes, what all we need to do as a council, and when I was just going through, would just share my personal experience that because besides Vice President, I'm Chief Architect of Punjab also, and as Chief Architect, when I've been visiting sites, talking to the engineers, because in our sites, we have Chief Engineer, we have Senior Engineers and Executive Engineers. But what I have experienced is what is important is you should have hold of what you're talking about. You should be professionally sound, because that's what I've seen that's given edge to whatever you are talking about. But recently, because my spouse is also an architect, and at home, just 2 days back, I was getting a iron framework made for leaf compost. So I was making a sketch, and that person who is supposed to execute, I was making, and he was looking at my spouse, Hanji sir, so I was getting kind of kind of frustrated कि I'm making a sketch, and instead of looking at me, he's looking at my spouse and Hanji sir क्या करना है, so I could tell him भाई यहाँ देखो मैं क्या बना रही हूँ. So I feel there are certain, one has to be clear what one is looking at. Maybe you have to use whatever, little more aggressive tone to tell them, see, look at this. So this will be a little short experience I had, and what I was just going through. Architect who talked about that role of CA should be to spread awareness and motivate the professionals to speak out and to educate professionals so that they can understand the problem what women are facing. So regarding that, probably I think Geeta had shared in our PPT that we have sent advisory to all the professionals where we have been very clear that you need to provide suitable working environment to women architects, and equal pay or stipend to be given to women architects and girls trainings, and any kind of misconduct in the office or a workplace will amount to a professional misconduct and shall be dealt very seriously by council. And there are few others, we had sent all this kind of advisory to the institutions also, and to the professionals, the architects who are practicing, and there were wonderful points by Smita, Vidya, Madhvi, and you know, the young girls, architect Shruti and architect Savneet. They were wonderful points, and Satish had good points to make. So I'm sure we'll be, Deepak is there who is listening to all this, so we'll be able to jot down these points and work on it. And regarding what COA can do, I can just say I was just thinking that when women, you know, after completing the degree wants to come back after a break. So we, through our TRCs, has been regularly conducting offline and online training programs for continuing education of architects and teachers in architecture. Presently, 4 to 8 such programs are being conducting online each month. And the information on this program is available on COA website, which is coa.gov.in. And these training programs offer opportunities for upskilling and updating professional related knowledge. Then we are Smartya e-portal of COA will very soon come up with online self-paced certificate courses for all those who wish to remain updated with present trends in architecture practice and education. And of course, through all this discussion today, I feel family and definitely institution, the faculty play a very important role, because the faculty is themselves the role model, you know, for the girls architect. If they see them, you know, conducting themselves so confidently, you know, even I want that all the institutions to take up consultancy projects, you know, where they are talking of designing to even services, to calling the contractors, calling the vendors in the institutions. So even the boys and the girls are very well versed with what is happening in the industry and how they need to conduct themselves. So, I mean, there are a lot we can talk about, but I think because we're shorted of time, I would now thank you everyone for a wonderful session. Apurva, we need to come again for the part 2. Over.
Before I pass it on to Apurva, I have a question for you, Apurva. There were a lot of references to alternate streams and if a person, and usually the point of view is you can't cope with design and technical subjects, then why don't you do photography? Why don't you do journalism? Why don't you get into alternate streams? And I think you are a living example of choosing journalism because you wanted to, you had a love for it. And I mean, you know, I'd like you to address that before we conclude.
Yes, Geeta ma'am, I think I and you are the 17% that you were probably referring to, you know, in the PPT, not practicing architects in the conventional way, but yeah, I practice architecture through the medium of words. And as you said, I made a very conscious decision of opting for this field within 2 months of graduation. But I have always realized, and thank you for asking me this question, that generally all women who embrace avenues, alternate avenues in architecture, whether it's writing, academics, you know, photography, or the plethora of avenues today, they are said to have embraced those avenues because those avenues require less time and focus.
Easier.
They are less technical in their pursuits, and it makes it easier for us women to balance our work-home conditions. So 2 points that I want to make. Firstly, these other avenues do not take less time and focus. They might not have to deal with the challenges that, you know, one has to deal in hardcore practice, but they have many other challenges to deal with. And neither are they less technical in their pursuits. Secondly, I do accept that there might be some women whose circumstances might compel them to take up these alternate avenues, but not all women do that. Hence, this should not be generalized, and women should not be put into that box, because I think this not only diminishes what women are capable of doing, but it also kind of devalues the skills required for these alternate avenues of architecture. I must say, many women take up alternate career paths in architecture. We have many examples right now, you know, within our panelists. Geeta ma'am, you are a wonderful example of the same. Many women, they take up alternate avenues of architecture because they are passionate about it. They believe in it and they understand they can make a difference through their contribution. We are not craving to be labeled as victims. What we want, as the title says, is just a level playing field. And that is what the discussion was all about. This is a myth that I have come across several times. And Geeta ma'am, I'm sure you must have also come across several times. And I think this needs to be addressed.
Thank you.
So I think with that, it's a good note to wrap up the discussion today. And thank you, panelists, for this thought-provoking discussion, compelling thoughts, some very hard-hitting statements coming from all of you, and a lot of diverse takeaways that we could implement at different scales. And Geeta ma'am, thank you for moderating it beautifully and ensuring such diverse aspects are covered. I think the most important takeaway, as Smita ma'am mentioned, is to celebrate ourselves instead of only looking for external validation. So on that note, I'm going to request Habib sir to please come and share his thoughts on the discussion, post which I will continue with the concluding note. Habib sir, are you here? Okay, Habib sir is probably not here. Sapna ma'am, will you like to come in and give your notes in the discussion? Last few notes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Apurva, for conducting this COA social event. And I think I've already said, so I can just say thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, my dear committee members, for your time and energy. And thank you, our dear guests, Shruti, Savneet, and Thiru. Thiru's name is little, difficult to pronounce. And of course, all the COA team for, being there, because it's, I can see Deepak, Harpreet, working in the, back scenes, So thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, audience. And we'll come soon again. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And a little note for me, again, thanking our guests today for their time and insights. Thank you, viewers, for the support you have extended for all of us and at COA Social in the past few years. Goodbyes are never easy, but they signal new beginnings, and that is what keeps all of us going. And I must take this opportunity to thank Habib sir, Sapna ma'am, and the entire council for showing us how things can be done and for leaving behind a legacy that we hope we can carry forward with the same passion, dedication, and love that you have all done. So thank you so much for everything. All our best wishes to our guests and our viewers for new beginnings, new endeavors, and the new year. Till we meet again, it's a goodbye from us at COA Social.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.